Yes, welcome back. Thanks for staying with us on the Sports Show. Time to turn our attention to footy, of course, and one of the great coaches in the AFL, forward development coach Tate Kaesler, has been good enough to give us some of his time in a busy schedule. Tate, how are you, mate?
Good, Phil. Thanks for having me.
That's all right, mate. Now, the forward line development coach or the forward development coach, we have some lovely titles for footy, but what's your role entail?
Yeah, well, they all sound good, but if you don't do your job, you don't have that title for very long. So Phil, my role is the forward development coach is to look after generally the younger guys in the SANFL where they're playing and get them to develop and get them to a stage where they're pushing for AFL selection. In saying that, I still also work with the AFL team in the AFL players and their development. So we always want our players to get better. So setting a development plan and myself running that development plan and making them commit to something to get better is really important in their development as well.
All right, all the coaches and all the fans talk about accelerated learning. We want someone to be able to come out and kick goals straight away. How difficult the art of first understanding the structure to get the ball, to get in a place to kick the goal, and then once you get it, to actually kick the goal. Yeah,
look, it is. It's really hard, and coming from a junior level with these players, they might have been the bigger kid and they're able to dominate competitions. Now they're actually coming out and they're 18-year-old kids playing against men. So they're into another environment with a different game style. So they do have to learn how we want to play, and then the next part is getting into the position to be able to receive the ball to, either have a shot on goal or create some space for someone else.
Right. I know my time at the Institute of Sport, we got that dangerous word that's tabbed with these kids have got great potential or this kid's a great talent, but their skill level was really poor. And so a lot of it was actually undoing the bad habits they had skill-wise and then almost re-educating them again on the good skills. You had to deal with that much?
Yeah, definitely. Again, it comes down to the pressure. So the pressure that they get at under 18 level is completely different to the pressure they're getting at either SANFL or AFL level. So it's probably not until 3 months in where the guys actually understand, wow, this is another step up from what I've been playing. So they might have been an 8 out of 10 kick at under 18s, but as soon as the pressure comes in at AFL level, they're down to a 5. So it's again adjusting them, working on their dynamics and their technique to be able to make them become better and execute at AFL level. And that's where training at AFL intensity is something really important for the young kids today.
All right, you touched on it there, the speed of the game. That's what changes the most from under 18s to SANFL, then to AFL.
Definitely.
It's a big jump from the SANFL, and no disrespect to the SANFL, it's a great league, but to come to the AFL, would you liken it from going to playing state sport to go to the Olympic Games?
Oh, definitely.
That massive jump.
It's huge. And again, as I said, these young kids that are just turned 18 years of old are playing against guys that, have played 150 games, have been in the gym for 6 to 8 years. Their body's developed, coming up against these kids that are really skinny that, have only just started their weights program. So it is a massive jump, not just from the pressure side of it, but from the physical side as well.
All right, the fans sit and watch Adelaide Oval, of course, magnificent oval, 50,000, beautiful mark straight out in front on 30 metres out, and they miss, and you hear the whole crowd go, ooh. So it's almost deflating for the bloke that misses it. But I've had this argument, and you can help me out here, with lots of different coaches saying, you've got to understand it's an outdoor sport.
Yep.
This guy's technique may be perfect. Just at the last minute, gust of wind comes and blows the footy, and that's actually enough to put it off. Is that a fair call?
Yeah, definitely, mate. There's so many variables in the game of footy, and probably the biggest thing that it's hard to emulate here at trainings is you can never train in front of 50,000 people. So you never have that pressure of noise. You're never going to get the same conditions. This week we're playing at Etihad Stadium under a roof, so there's no wind at all. Training today, there's a slight breeze right to left, so they've got to adjust their kick. So it comes down to a lot of repetition. Look, we would have at least 10 to 15 minutes of goal kicking a week. Religiously. So pre-season would have been anything from 15 to 30 minutes of goal kicking a week, from the varieties of set shots, snaps, on the run. So my role is to try and put the players in as much pressure as possible. So you'll have competitions about buying lunch, buying coffee, all this sort of stuff to put as much pressure on as you can. We'll use the loudspeakers for crowd noise to try and emulate it as much as possible. But realistically, on game day, there is so many different variables that can go wrong and have an influence on the end result.
All right, you talk about the skill of kicking. There's also a mental side to that. And you touched on it there that you can't simulate 50,000 people. Is it the mind that messes up with some of the players?
Yeah, definitely, and I think that's probably the biggest area in footy. If someone can delve into that area and find the answer, I reckon they're going to be a genius, because as much as you say there's the skill component, there is also the mental side of it of, oh, I missed my last shot. Does that make them any more chance of missing the next one? No. So it comes down to the person's ability to, we do things like breathing technique, controlling your body, making sure your routine, and one thing I try and get through to the players is making sure your routine is the same every time you line up for goal, no matter whether you're 20 metres out, you're 50 metres out. I think that's the most important thing, to have continuity in your routine.
All right, you hear a lot of the old footy players say, oh, well, in my day, we came out and if we missed, we practiced for 2 hours after training, or we came out and practiced 2 hours before. I mean, the speed of the game now and the athleticism that's involved doesn't allow that overload training, does it? So it's a case of finding the balance to be able to get repetitive goal kicking and not get to the point where you're damaging them.
Yeah, correct. And all our trainings now and their workload is monitored. So Brett Burton, he's the guy I've got to deal with quite regularly.
Well, there's your first problem right there, isn't it? I mean, you're dealing with the boom man, so...
If I'm doing too much
it's a slippery
kicking...
slope
exactly,
now, mate.
I know, we're in all sorts. So, again, it's about getting the quality and quantity in, but also controlling their workload, because the last thing you want is... I know, like you say, Phil, back when I was a kid, all I did was kick the footy in the backyard every night. These days, it's all about recovery and getting them ready for next week, as well as fine-tuning their skills during the week.
All right, let's talk a little bit about your career. 180 SNFL games. I don't mean to embarrass you on the TV, mate, but you've had best and fairest. You've played in premierships. So does that give you an advantage when you're talking to the players? Do they understand that this guy's been through it a little bit, as opposed to someone that comes in who's got it out of the book? They kind of look at them sometimes and go, mate, you haven't been there. Do you ever feel like saying, mate, I've actually done all this? Not quite as much as Blighty used to, mate. We don't go down Blighty, but you've got some credits.
Yeah, look, I mean, I've played a bit of footy, but in the end, Phil, I think it's all about the relationships that you build with the players and the trust that you get from them. So no matter whether you play 200 games or none, if you can actually help and educate these players to what you've learnt, what you've seen, show them vision, give them reports on things that are working, I think that's where you build the biggest trust and you get the biggest results. Look, I didn't play at the elite level, but I still think I played enough footy to be able to understand the game and what works. But the biggest thing for me is about building relationships with the players and getting the trust with them that you know what you're talking about.
All right, mate. Now, the important thing in building a relationship is not to embarrass them when you're playing other sports. So if my spies are correct, there was a bit of a basketball competition on not long ago.
Yeah.
And one of the blokes standing right next to me, I won't mention his name, made 2 from halfway, but it wasn't on film, and the blokes won't take that.
Yeah, no, I think it went back to, was it 96 I played with you?
96,
one
mate.
Game, so I'm blaming you.
Oh, it's my fault.
For not teaching me how to shoot. But yeah, no, look, unfortunately I got beaten by Sam Jacobs the other day in the Coach v Player Challenge, and I had the halfway shot to win it, but it hit the rim, and I thought, no, that's not good enough. So the next 2 shots, they turned the cameras off, and I nailed both in a row. And I'd love to have told the boys that that's how it went, but
Yeah, so you're a man that likes to do it behind the scene, not on. So
exactly.
Yeah, and I think it's important the source understands that the reason you let him win was so his confidence would be up.
Correct, and it was the 4th challenge out of the whole competition, and if we'd have won, that was it. So I wanted to make it go to number 5,
fair,
so that it was fair for the players to have another go to get back in the game.
All right, mate. Now you've been in the coaching gig a while. You've gone through obviously a range of coaches in the SANFL. You've been a few coaches here at the Crows in your time, mate.
Yep.
All different styles. I mean, is there a core that you think the coaches come in with, and then their personality and style runs off that, or are they completely different?
I think there's a fair bit of difference. Again, like what you say, most coaches have got their own philosophies that they like to deal with. I've got my own philosophy, but as a development coach, you've got to fit in with the senior coach that's there. There's a lot of coaches that I've had that you learn stuff, what you really like, and things that you probably go, I think that would be a challenge for me, I'd like to do it a different way. So yeah, look, I've been in this role now for 6 years, and I love working with, I suppose the thing is, elite athletes that want to be the best, and that's what drives me here every day. And what more do you want, outside every day, kicking the footy around. It's a really good environment, but hopefully one day I can keep progressing myself and either coach in my own right or become an assistant coach one day, either here at Adelaide or, the way the environment is at the moment, you could be here one day and somewhere the next. So look, it's a great environment, and I'm really enjoying it.
All right, mate, you touched on the Birdman coming back. He's a friend of yours, he's a friend of mine. How's the transition been? Has it been a disaster, or has he actually contributed something?
Well, look, to be honest, he's never out on the track. He's always in the office. He's probably the best delegator that I've seen.
So nothing's changed?
Nothing's changed, and And now that I'm doing the goal kicking, you know who's sort of down there every week saying, oh, I think we should do it this way.
Right.
So if we have a good week, I take it. If we don't, I'd say, well, Birdman taught him this week. So
okay, so he coached Lynchy all of last week for the Six Goals,
exactly.
did he? And he's looking after Eddie Betts, mate.
Correct, correct. Yeah, he loves that. No, look, Brett's been fantastic, and having a former great, you know, come back to the club's always, you know, really good for the club. But also him going away, experiencing another environment. He's obviously learnt some things that he likes and brought back some other things to our club. And look, he runs a really good ship, and he's got some really good guys underneath him that do a great job. And at the moment, with I think it's 45 out of 46 guys available for selection, he can probably put his feet up at the moment and sit back on the desk and do what he wants.
What he normally does. Mate, last question, I know you've got to go, you've got plenty to do, Tate. A lot of the young kids now get weeded out purely just on work ethic. I mean, over the journey, it was the kid with the most talent, it was the kid that had size, kid with this. If they haven't got the work ethic, they're nearly gone straight away before even those other factors come into play now, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, and I think the rotation cap and all that's come into the game has really put a lot more pressure on the players to be fit, not just endurance, but be able to repeat speed with the way the game's going. So yeah, there is a fair bit of demand on young kids, especially these days, to be super fit. So any advice for young kids wanting to get drafted, mate, is, you know, make sure that you're super fit, especially with your endurance stuff. The game is changing every 2 or 3 years. You know, I know when I started, I think back in the day we had 145 rotations, so it was all about speed on the game. Now there's a 90 rotation cap, so it's about speed on the game, but being able to repeat it for, you know, 7 minutes that you're out on the ground. So it's quite a demand. And the other thing too, mate, is versatility. So for kids out there these days aspiring to be AFL footballer, all I can say is make sure you've got skills in a lot of different areas of the game, because you could be playing as a midfielder, you could all of a sudden be put at half back, so you've got to learn how to defend. You could be a forward that's got to be able to crumb. So there's so many different skills, and the more versatile you can be, the more chance you have, I reckon, of being drafted.
All right,
in the
so
AFL.
it's fair to say, mate, that the Crows' forward line is moving beautifully.
Yes,
if we can get the defensive coach to hold up his end, things are good for the year.
Exactly. That's
Always good to catch up with you, mate. Thanks for your time. We'll take a break. Back with more in a moment.